This video continues a series on installing and configuring Microsoft Active Directory. Previously, we set up a new Active Directory force and domain using Windows Server 2025 and added a second domain controller. We will set up an administrative workstation from which we will accomplish domain, server, and network administrative tasks. This workstation will be on a dedicated administrative subnet separate from the server and client subnets. We'll cover the following topics when setting up and configuring our administrative workstation. We'll add the Configuration Manager console later when we have a working Configuration Manager instance. Although these procedures are focused on Windows 11 and Windows Server 2025, they are similar for Windows 10 and Windows Server 2022, 2019, and 2016. At a newly provisioned Windows 11 workstation, log in as a user with administrative rights. For this first system, we will manually set the IP address and DNS servers using the Settings app. Right-click Start, select Network Connections, and click Ethernet. At IP assignment, click Edit, select Manual from the drop-down, and turn on IPv4. Enter the IP address and DNS server information. See? That new method was not too bad. Once the IP address is set, open a terminal or PowerShell session and type nslookup or resolve-DNS name to ensure the domain name is properly resolved. Remember, in order to join an Active Directory domain, the domain name must be resolvable via DNS. Notice both domain controllers are displayed. Check for domain or workgroup status while still in the terminal using the get-computerinfo commandlet. Notice that we are in workgroup mode. Rename the computer. Right-click Start, select System, and click Domain or Workgroup. In the Systems Properties dialog window, at the Computer Name tab, click the Change button. In the Computer Name field, enter the new computer name, ensuring the length is 15 characters or less. In my many years of Active Directory experience, I have always found that renaming the computer and rebooting before joining a domain yields the best, most predictable results. Restart the computer when prompted. Log in. Go back to the Systems Properties dialog. Click Change and select the Domain Radio button. Enter the full domain name, not the truncated NetBIOS domain name. Enter the credentials of a domain user with rights to join a computer to the domain. Click OK. Close the System Properties dialog box and restart the computer. We can also use PowerShell to set the IP and DNS settings and rename the computer. Open an administrative terminal or PowerShell session. Get-netadapter to get the interface name or index. Set-netip interface to change from DHCP to static. New-netip address to set the IP address. Set-DNS client server address to set the DNS servers. Resolve-DNS name to check for domain name resolution. Rename-computer to rename the computer. And restart the computer. At the login screen, click Other User and log in as a user with domain admin rights. Open a terminal or PowerShell session and verify domain membership with the get-computerinfo commandlet. Notice the difference from before when we were in a workgroup. Since our administrative workstation is located on another subnet, we need to slightly modify the domain controller's firewall to allow remote administration from the admin subnet. Log into either one of the domain controllers. Since we want this to apply to all of our domain controllers and servers, we'll use group policies. Instead of getting too granular with OUs, we can apply a GPO to the entire domain and only target certain systems using WMI filtering. As Server Manager, click Tools and select Group Policy Management. Expand Forest, Domains, and the target domain. Right-click WMI Filters and select New. Provide a meaningful name and optional description and click Add. Leave the namespace as root/CIM version 2. In the query field, enter the following WMI query to target only server operating systems. Click OK to save the query. Right-click Group Policy Objects, select New, and provide a meaningful name. Double-click the GPO. Towards the bottom in the WMI filtering area, select your server filter and click Yes. Right-click the GPO and select Edit. Expand Computer Configuration, Policies, Windows Settings, Security Settings, Windows Defender Firewall, Windows Defender Firewall. Right-click Inbound Rules and select New Rule. Click the predefined radio button and select Windows Remote Management. Click Next twice, followed by Finish. For each rule, right-click the rule and select Properties. Under the Scope tab, in the Remote IP Address section, add the IP subnet of the administrative subnet and see the notation and click OK. Click Add again under Predefined Set of Computers. Select Local Subnet to allow administration from other servers if necessary. Right-click and create another new rule from the predefined Remote Desktop. Right-click each of the RDP settings and limit the scope to the administrative and local subnets. Back at Windows Settings, Security Settings, select System Services. For each of the 3 remote desktop services, click the Define this policy setting checkbox and the automatic radio button. Expand Administrative Templates, Windows Components, Remote Desktop Services, RD Session Hosts, Connections. Enable Allow users to connect remotely. Close the Group Policy Management Editor. Under Group Policy Management, with the GPO selected, click the Settings tab to verify the settings. To avoid the nuisance Internet Explorer dialog box, click the Add button and add the About security_mmc.exe. Click Show All to see all settings. Since we have a WMI filter applied, we can apply this GPO to the entire domain to apply to any server, regardless of which OU it may reside. Right-click the domain, select Link an existing GPO, and select the GPO. At the domain controller, open an administrative PowerShell session and run gpupdate/force. Do the same for the other domain controller via a remote PowerShell session using enter-ps session commandlet. Exit the terminal or PowerShell session, close all dialogues in Windows, and log off the domain controller. In previous versions of Windows, Remote Server Administration Tools, RSAT, was a separate download. Starting with Windows 10, RSAT is now an optional operating system feature. However, you must have an internet connection. Right-click Start, select Settings, click Optional Features, and click View Features. Type RSAT in the search field. Select all tools, followed by Next. Confirm the selection and click Add. Installing all of the remote server administration tools will take some time. Please be patient. Alternatively, open an administrative terminal or PowerShell session and use the get-Windows capability cmdlet pipe to for each -object to install all RSA tools. RSAT can be installed regardless of domain membership and can be part of a baseline gold image for installation in environments with limited or no internet. Once RSAT is installed, click Start, All Apps, and scroll down to Windows Tools. There, you will see most of the tools. Mostly. Click Start and type Server Manager. Yep, that same Server Manager in which you already have experience with Windows Server. Personally, I pin Server Manager to my taskbar and to my Start menu. Dismiss the Windows Admin Center dialog by checking Don't Show Me This Message Again checkbox. You'll soon have Windows Admin Center installed. Click the Tools menu to see all the tools. At the dashboard, click Add Other Servers to Manage. Add both domain controllers. Click All Servers in the left pane. Right-click either to see the various tools and utilities available for that particular server. Select Active Directory users and computers. Expand the left pane to verify to which domain controller you are connected. Alternatively, select Active Directory Administrative Center. Hover over the domain to verify to which domain controller you are connected. Windows Admin Center is, well, I'll let Microsoft Michelle tell you.
Windows Admin Center is your remote management tool for Windows Server running anywhere, physical, virtual, on-premises, in Azure, or in a hosted environment at no additional cost.
Thank you, Michelle. Download the latest installer and start the installation. Select the port number above 1023, leave both checkboxes selected, and install. When installation is completed, check the Open Windows Admin Center checkbox. A browser window will open, prompting you to select a certificate for authentication. Allow the extensions to update and click OK to confirm and reload the page. Click the Settings gear, followed by Extensions. Add all of the Microsoft-provided available extensions. Click Windows Admin Center and click Add. Click Add under Servers and select Search Active Directory. Add both domain controllers and connect to each. To manage MS SQL instances, download and install the latest SQL Server Management Studio, SSMS. The installation is straightforward, with no configurable options other than the installation path. Following the installation, click Start and type SSMS to test for a successful installation. We'll use SSMS later. A rich, robust text editor that provides diff capabilities helps immensely with viewing and editing config and log files in varying formats. VSCode can be installed for the logged on user or for the system supporting all users. Here, I'm downloading and installing the system installer. and launch when installation is complete. Click the extensions icon on the left and add the following as a minimum: PowerShell, Hex Editor, Remote SSH. After enabling the correct server firewall rules and services through our GPO configuration, we need to check our connections. We know that Server Manager and Active Directory remote tools work. We know that Windows Admin Center can successfully connect to our servers for remote administration. We now need to check our RDP connections. First, open a terminal or PowerShell session and use the test-net connection commandlet. Both tests should say TCP test succeeded equals true. Open Remote Desktop Connection and connect to either of the domain controllers. After establishing a successful RDP session, log off. Now, we need to test the remote PowerShell session. Back at the terminal, use the enter-ps session commandlet to connect to both domain controllers. In heterogeneous environments with a mix of Windows and Linux servers, you may want to have a single method of establishing a remote console connection. We can connect to Windows servers and clients using SSH just as easily as we can with Linux. Using your new administrative workstation, RDP into each domain controller. As Server Manager on the domain controller, local server, enable remote SSH access. At the confirmation screen, type yes. Refresh Server Manager and notice remote SSH now reflects enabled. Close Server Manager and log out of the remote desktop session. Open Server Manager on the local administrative computer. Go to Tools menu and select Group Policy Management. Expand Forest, Domains, the target domain, right-click the GPO we created earlier, and select Edit. Expand Computer Configuration, Policies, Windows Settings, Security Settings, Windows Defender Firewall, Windows Defender Firewall. Create a new inbound rule. Select port, enter 22, allow the connection for all profiles, and provide a descriptive name. Right-click the rule, select Properties, and add the administrative and local subnets to the Allowed Remote IP Addresses list. Close the Group Policy Management Editor. Right-click the policy and select Refresh. In the Settings tab, click Show All and ensure the rule is present. Close Group Policy Management. Close Server Manager and open an administrative terminal or PowerShell session. Invoke enter-PSS session to each domain controller and type gp update/force. Once the policies are updated, do a test-net connection over port 22 to the other domain controller. Following that successful test, close the remote session from both servers and do another test-net connection from the administrative workstation to both domain controllers. Following a successful test, establish an SSH connection to each server. Type yes to allow the certificate fingerprint and provide the user password. You are now logged in via SSH. Acceptable login formats include using the user principal name or the legacy domain/username. Congratulations! We now have a fully functioning baseline administrative workstation from where we can accomplish most, if not all, domain and server administrative functions. This is also referred to as a Privileged Access Workstation, or PAW. The next domain step is to set up a utility server that will host a few roles typically found in an Active Directory environment. I hope you enjoyed this video about domain administrative workstations, learned something new, and found it useful. If you have any feedback, corrections, or suggestions, please let me know in the comments below. Please like, subscribe, and pass it on to others. And I thank you for watching.